Hello, my name is Malcolm Rose and I like cryptocurrency. I've been writing about cryptocurrency for quite some time now, almost a year in fact. I started out on a blogging site called Medium, and after I was censored off of that site for reasons that I'm still not quite sure of, I made my own website called RoseCrypto.com. Now, since you're watching my video, I doubt that you haven't heard of my site, but on the off chance that you haven't, you should take a look at it. I've always written and focused on writing educational content. Kind of a high-level overview of what a particular coin or token is all about, how it could change the world, what it's meant to do, how it could change an industry. What I don't often do is get into the deep technical aspects of cryptocurrency. This kind of thing is interesting, especially to someone like me, and it's not that it's not important, I just don't think it's a very good way to get your average person into crypto. Especially your average non-technical person. The problem is that when you open up with phrases that sound like they're from Star Trek, like decentralized network and immutable ledger, people's eyes tend to glaze over. They go into the coma, and then they never want to hear about Bitcoin again. The thing is, people use technology that they don't understand. They do it every day in the form of credit cards, the internet, and lots of other things. They're able to do this because the technology simply works its magic in the background. They don't need to understand how it works, it just works. I foresee Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies doing something like this later, when the wide-scale adoption happens. The whole thing will be obfuscated to the point that your average person might be using Bitcoin without really having the faintest idea of how it works, or they might not even know that it's there at all. With that said, we're not there yet, and I'm doing my best to educate people through my writing and now through this podcast. So this is my first video, and it should serve as an introduction to the sort of things that I'll be talking about on this channel. I'm looking to branch out into some topics that I haven't previously covered. If you follow my writing, you've seen some of this already. I've talked a little about stocks, politics, current events, and more. All of these things have something to do with cryptocurrency, or cryptocurrency has something to do with them. And if they don't have to do with cryptocurrency, they might have something to do with the philosophy that surrounds cryptocurrency. Now, it may surprise you a little bit to hear the word philosophy in the same sentence as cryptocurrency, but the reality is that cryptocurrency has always had philosophy and politics associated with it. Bitcoin was created in 2008, and the software was released in 2009, and all of this happened, some would argue, as a response to the housing crisis of 2008. Now, that was a politically polarizing event. It spawned Occupy Wall Street, and it made a lot of people very angry at the powers that be. They maybe came to a realization that the bankers who run things either don't care too much about the average person, or specifically want the average person under the boot heel. Worst of all, these people are completely unaccountable. They'll never go to jail for their crimes, they'll always get away with it. Bitcoin was created to wrest a little bit of that power away from the bankers, and that is inherently a very political thing. Furthermore, what you have to understand is that when Bitcoin was first made, it was essentially worth nothing. There weren't even real exchanges for it, so it was hard to determine the value. People would trade it person to person, usually for less than cents for each Bitcoin. Not 1 cent, but a percentage of a single cent. Many cryptocurrency enthusiasts have probably heard of the guy who bought a couple pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins back in 2010. That's worth about $65 million now. Back then, people weren't in this for speculative reasons. It was generally just because of an interest in computer science, or they would mine some coins on a lark. I don't think very many people back in 2010 expected that they were going to get rich off Bitcoin. But here we are. We're here, and Bitcoin's worth $6,000 or more, and it's been as much as $20,000. So, times have changed, my friends. However, back in 2009, there was no way to anticipate just where Bitcoin would go, especially to the heights of early 2018, $20,000 of Bitcoin. I mean, there's just no way that you could know that that would happen. Even the most wild-eyed enthusiasts probably had no idea. My point is that the people who got into this stuff early on were guaranteed to have a pretty interesting perspective on the world. Some of them probably were doing this speculatively, but a lot of them were politically motivated or simply had an interest in the computer science aspects of it. Even today, after the massive bull run of late 2017, people are often skeptical about Bitcoin, or they just don't know anything about it. Maybe they're not even interested in learning anything about it. Back in 2009, however, explaining Bitcoin to a stranger was probably an exercise in futility, even harder than it is today. You might as well have been trying to explain to someone that you've actually bought a ticket on a literal rocket ship and you're heading to the moon. The bottom line is that the early adopters of Bitcoin thought differently. Whether they were politically aligned to the right or to the left, they tended to share a distrust of governments and banks. In the beginning, cryptocurrency was largely a libertarian endeavor. It was a hodgepodge collection of crypto-anarchists who might have been a Tea Partier or a member of Occupy Wall Street. The thing they shared was a love of freedom. Of course, today, in 2018, there are people of other political persuasions who are now heavily involved in some projects. For my part, I'd like to think that cryptocurrency still largely aligns with my own thoughts on the world. If you're not familiar with my previous work, hi, I'm Malcolm and I'm a free speech maximalist. I'm equal parts disgusted and disturbed by the growth of mass censorship these days, and I've dedicated my professional and personal life to fighting it in whatever way I can. Personally, I believe that cryptocurrency can help bring back our rights to freedom of expression on the internet, as well as take some power away from the amoral international banking cartel whose only goal is to maintain its wealth by any means necessary. These are the kinds of issues that this channel will focus on. Next time I intend to talk a little more about the state of freedom of speech on the internet in 2018. Until then, I am signing out.